Hey guys, Infidel1258 here. Today I'm going to get into some frequently asked questions, or otherwise known as checking out the comment section and seeing what you're curious about. I'm looking for critical comments or thoughtful comments that are going to drive an interesting conversation. And so we'll grab a couple different comments, usually three from three different videos, and we'll see what you guys are curious about. I have looked at the comment section, which I don't usually do, just because I wanted to see if there was anything worth getting into, and I see some fun ones that are grabbing my attention, so I just want to pop on and share a few of them with you. I saw a quick one from here from Lord Kagor, where I was talking about, it's like one of my Modern League sort of meta-analysis videos where I'm showing content from my own rank grind in the Modern League with Rebellion and Conclave Arcana, and I'm noticing some things that maybe are helpful to you. And Lord Kagor thought Risk Eldrath, using him to intentionally apply a taunt to take advantage of a Fury rule set where there's a rule where all monsters have Fury, is a valuable tech that he had never known. So I just wanted to shout him out and say thank you, Lord Kagor, for the comment. I'm glad that was helpful to you. And there's more. Also, I saw, this is where I really decided to grab the video. Ian Phillips also dropped a comment saying, I think we learned from this video that Clank Trap, I think it's a different video, same idea though. No, it might be the same video. And Clank Trap, Razi Clank Trap is a summoner who applies Painforge to all gnomes and calls all gnomes regardless of Splinter. Interesting mechanic, and I think there's something there, powerful there, that's probably being a little overlooked. Ian thought that in the video we primarily demonstrated that Razi Clank Trap is good in low mana rule sets. Really powerful, actually. I think in any sub 20 you can get so much mileage from Razi Clank Trap, being able to bring in, there's like 3 or 4 gnomes that each have really low mana cost and no attack. So if we just quickly look at Rebellion and we go non-attacking monsters and we go reg foil only, look at this. These are your Rebellion monsters that are going to be comparable or made functional potentially with Razi. Okay, that's not entirely true. Hang on, let me back that up. So Runesayer Savea is not a gnome. I actually don't know her race, but she's a dragon, and I don't think that partnership happens. But Chaos Animator, yes. Ana Chai Botanist, yes. Dagon Dirk Surveyor, yes. Nimbleduke, yes. I think the Albahu, but I don't believe I've ever played that one in conjunction with it. And so you can potentially build, I really like using Anachai for the 2 with the good 6 speed, and that's really going to land most shots. Plus it's got a blind, which is a very helpful ability from a 2-mana monster. If you're going to try and build a slightly different team, maybe you're interested in bringing Nimbleduke because she's got the Inspire with the melee potential functionality with a different weapon trainer. But I will often do Dagon Dark and Anachai, or Chaos Animator is my third option. Those are 3 great options for really low mana, and they functionally provide a lot with the slow, the speed manipulation, the stun, the blind. Or Chaos Animator, you're not seeing her max ability here, but Redemption, Void, and Amplify. Great cards, great synergies, and if you're talking sub 20 mana in Splinterlands, to be able to pull out that weapon train functionality with her, it's definitely not something I'm doing. It is not leading the charge. And I think that might, like I'm showing right now on the screen, my last 20 battles or so. And a lot of these battles, I'm running Rebellion summoners. I've got Risk Eldraths, and I've got Cryptics, and I've got, Illes, Max Pruitt, or Cryptic or Lorcus. It's like over and over and over a Kane. There's a Brewmaster Abraxas. There's a Nidhogger. I don't have a single match in the last 20 where I'm featuring, so unfortunately I can't reveal the implications. But yeah, check out the video if you want to see more sort of a deep dive in how the Razi is being utilized, or maybe effectively or ineffectively, because I think there's something there. The question is, how do you navigate? Like, every tool has its purpose. How do you find the right function in the right moment? That navigating that is really the game within the game, because you're not just going to maximize. You can't just win a game by having the best cards, because you can't afford all the cards. And so the question is, how do you get the most with the least? And that's understanding your tool set, your toolkit, and using the right piece at the right moment. And so thanks, Ian. And one more comment on that vein before we move on from this thread, just people seeing some of the observations I was making. I saw Erroneous, shout out to Erroneous, sub for 2+ years. Appreciate you, pal. So Erroneous, he has a copy of Yabanius, and so do I. I pulled one in this video, Legendary Luck Insane Conclave pack opening in Splinterlands. And man, I use that card quite a bit actually. Like even at level 1 with 1 BCX, it has the Empower function, which is super cool. I'm going to quickly show it here on Peak Monsters. So there it is, Yabanius. At the level 1, it does offer the Empower functionality, and it doesn't explain it here on Peak Monsters because they only have the older abilities as drop down sort of explainable. But the Empower functionality will increase the damage output of the 2 adjacent monsters. And so it's very possible to place Yabanius between 2 huge beasts, double strike monsters, or multi-attackers. And then they're going to get that immediate buff to their damage output, which can go so far if you utilize it well in conjunction with maybe Life Leech or, you know, Expose, or what else. You know, there's ways to implement this partnership really effectively. And I think even at 1 BCX, this card is an absolute juggernaut. Look at this, low buy 324. The other day was 200 something. I said I would consider selling it for $300. It's so scarce, it's insane. Yeah, it's such an interesting card, and you probably aren't going to see a lot of matches with it. So I'm going to just show you 1 or 2 if I've got them here. I believe I played it. I don't know if oh, this is a loss, but check out what I did here. So archery only, no armor, fog of war. So I go blue because I want the Prophet Rosa archery buff, and I've got the shield opportunity. If I think that's going to be more advantageous, it might be wise to put a shield on here. I think whenever you're using a tactic summoner, what I like to do is, you know, build a team that could go either way. So with a Nidhogger, generally speaking, I'm going to be going speed and the execute, but sometimes with Nidhogger, you're gonna want to have that blast opportunity, and I have seen that recently too. We could show that in a minute here if we wanted, but I'll just say, when I pick Prophet Rosa, I'm thinking I want monsters that are gonna do they're going to be able to do a lot of damage quickly. The Sultry Barmaid has ambush, so it's going to fire in the round 0. So does Drybone round 0, and then round 1 relatively quickly too, because they're speeds. But also I could go archery buff on Grimward Rune Shot, which would be interesting because I expected him to play Stepwalk Stalker in the front, which has shield, and Grimward has Relentless Strike, which attacks deal true damage, plus 1 damage if the target has Void Shield or Force Field. So amping this thing up would probably insta-delete the Stepwalker. But it's not going to work out how I want, but I wanted you to see that the implementation of Yabanius here to buff the damage outgoing here is going from 3 to 4 and 4 is huge. Plus he buffs himself too. That's the other thing. He buffs himself. So if it wasn't good enough to buff your neighbors, and it would be interesting to use Grammel here. That was a thought too. It's always a thought, but I didn't want to put Yabanius too far forward. So much functionality here. Let's watch it play out. It's not going to go my way. My opponent used speed. Look at speed, and blind, and we hit nothing. Like, look at these speeds. There's 0, 0, 0, 1. Everything's got 1. Frankly, the couple shots that I did have, there was a couple misses, but he just rips through me, in part because all the speed manipulation you brought. And let's slow it down. Actually, there was a comment in the chat that said, let's watch things at 2. Let's watch that one more time. It's nice and quick. So speed manipulation here, and here. So three speed manipulations, plus he has a double striking monster with expose and poison. So I mean, it's just lights out. Like I'm so outclassed here. Even this card alone, Delia is such an expensive. Like I mean, I actually don't know the price on that, but it ain't cheap. Did I fire 3 times before he killed half my team? He killed my front 3 cards by the time I shot 3 times. And so, anyways, I was trying to use Yabanius in the context of really going nuclear with those archer units. We got the +1 from Yabanius going from 3 to 4, and then I archer buff that, and yeah, but it doesn't matter if you're not going to hit anything. And then one more quick example of how I like to use tactics, building myself multiple options. Check this out. So I was expecting my opponent to run Tofu. I can't remember why I thought that. Maybe I looked at their past games. I can't remember why. But I've been running into Tofu so much lately. And, obviously the sustain is still a problem. This thing is good at sustainability. And if it keeps its opponents alive, and if it knows I'm going to kind of do melee, then, I'm going to probably burn myself into the ground. But my advantages are armored up and Nidhogger with the execute or the blast. And so just looking at this as I open the game and I look what I've got access to here, I'm like, either would be amazing. But execute my cards are already very fast, 5 speed, 4 speed, 5 speed, 6 speed, and even 4 speed on the front line, and even 3 is my slow monster. So I'm like, execute would be huge, but I really, because of the thorns, I need to get through faster. So I focus on the blast damage. And so it's not always blast damage. Even though he's got protect, even though he's got resurrect, even though he's got, a lot of hit points, we're just going to do crazy amounts of damage. In part with, where do we put the blast? Blast here, and blast here. Oh, and blast here, actually. And so I didn't even put it on my Venka, which Venka, by the way, is such a beast. There's just no arguing. Like, look what he just did there. And that was without blast damage. Just deletes. And Venka is holding up his end of the bargain. But the archer units, when they shoot, and we had an ambusher here, are dropping 8 damage each. And so, to drop 16 damage by the beginning of round 1 with the Rush Townsend because of the blast damage in the ambush round phase, it's so much damage. And these 2 archers almost alone are enough for me to really sort of out-survive the thorn damage. A big piece of what I was doing was melee, but I had massive archers that were dropping significant bombs, and if it looks concerning, the blast damage is still ticking away. We're still working, and my dwarf ain't done. He gets one more bloodlust in there, which makes him survive this incendiary, which makes him get one more huge 6 bomb. And look how close this is, right down to the wire. We absolutely needed well, maybe we didn't need everything, but as you can see, we're down to the wire there. So Tofu can grind you down, but I like to look at different options when I'm building a team. One avenue, maybe I'm probably thinking execute, but I'm going to give myself an option to imagine what a blast could do. And the same is true with Lorcus, and the same is true with with all the others. That was a bit of a nice rabbit hole that we went down there, talking about sort of more meta-analysis and some tech that's within the new sort of conclave space of modern. But I'm going to try and grab one more comment. Looks like there's something here from Ivan that's got some depth to it, so let's try and explore this. He's talking about black foils. He's talking about new foil cards. He says, one reason I do not like these new foils is that now most of the content made is about who pulled what, and less about other more interesting topics. I guess if people pull something that has a value, they want to just talk about that, but it's not really all that interesting after 50 of these vids are seen. Maybe others feel differently, which is fine. So many shiny foils is expansion, and prices are high that I would wonder if people don't put more money in, what will be the value of the regular cards after a while. Interesting. Okay, so I feel like there's a conversation to be had in there, Ivan. And I guess I want to start by saying the content around opening packs or around, what did I get and what did I not get? I think there's a huge group of people that like that stuff. And I don't just mean from Splinterlands. I mean, I personally watch pack opening videos regularly for Pokemon, even though I don't collect Pokemon. There's a lot of, and sports card openings, so I do think that's a huge actually niche, and maybe that's not you, and that's okay, by the way. I thank you for dropping a comment, even though it wasn't really your favorite. I will also say that, you're expressing two sort of critiques around these foils. One being, it might be attracting the wrong type of player, meaning they're chasing cards, not necessarily caring about the game, which is maybe a fair comment. but I don't know if it's a criticism, because I think strategically that's actually a piece of what Splinterlands was aiming at. They wanted to create, and that's why the tagline is "The chase is real," because the idea is they're recognizing that, one, we have a strong enough player base where there's a certain amount of demand and excitement and exuberance demonstrated by, was it $2 million? Is that right? No, could it have been? I forget the numbers now, but it's like, it's over $1 million. Maybe it's over two that have been sold. I could crunch the numbers right now, but it's a lot of money, which is to say there's a group of people that are deeply interested, and giving that group of that community an opportunity to chase after something that's even more potentially rare, scarce, and valuable than what was previously available is exciting to those people. And maybe, again, that's not you, and that's okay. And then finally, I would say you're levying a criticism, or at least a comment, against the fact that this might have implications for the regular foil card pricings. And that's possibly true. And again, I don't know if that's a criticism or an observation, because frankly, I do think that the team thought that through as well. I will side with you in one piece of this. I'll say, I don't know if it's possible to think through what the implications of, the fullness of the implications around what this will do to the Conclave Arcana card prices. I don't think it's possible to think through that fully through, because it's not just about black foils. That's where you're focusing, but it's also about starter packs and how they were available. And starter packs have 5 cards in them, common and rare. And it's about, there's starter packs, standard packs, alchemy, and legendary. This distinction alone is a radical divergence from where we have and how we have sold packs before. The starter packs is a big piece, starter packs, which are 1000 DC and they include 5 cards, is a very big piece of the conversation as to the future valuation of Conclave, because these packs will be available until the end of the release until the release of the next major set, which means that these will be printed probably in abundance beyond what the Conclave regular packs, the standard packs, the alchemy packs, or the legendary packs are. And that should, because they only include common and rare cards and no gold foils, I think you have to expect that'll mean there's a greater supply of those assets. And therefore, what does that mean for price? If supply goes up, that might mean price comes down. But you need to think through player-based growth, and if there is going to be player-based growth. And I think we've already seen player-based growth, or it's a beginning at least, in terms of this number of signups as well as the number of spell books being sold. There's a lot of, you can come in here and explore this yourself. Stats dashboard, and you go into, look at that. That must be, is survival back on? It must be. Okay, so look at new players. I mean, in the last month, there's been 188 spellbooks sold. That is really actually like a big move forward. We've seen months in the last year that would have been like 6. And so is this world changing or, earth shattering? No, but this is a big deal. Because I believe, and most people probably would say, there's like 1,000 or 2,000 players that are really deeply still involved in Splinterlands. 18% growth in a month, or maybe 9% growth in a month, is significant. And so all that said, you're maybe onto something. Maybe the Conclave cards won't hold value in the same ways that maybe Rebellion did, because Rebellion really had held value well so far, at least. It's food for thought, and it's an interesting conversation. I don't really know, and neither does Splinterlands, truthfully, but I do believe that they thought it through. I just also believe that this is a complicated and nuanced conversation, and it's really multifaceted, which means that it's difficult, maybe even impossible, to fully think through. Knowing all the outcomes would mean that you need to fully understand all of the inputs, or the data inputs, meaning how many new players and how often and when, and what sort of money are they bringing in, and do they buy starter or do they buy standard, alchemy or legendary? Those data points are impossible to know until they do it, until they act. and only then can we have the data with which to analyze what that's going to mean for the economy. So we're speculating, and I don't think you're entirely off base with some of your speculations, and that's why I wanted to feature the comment. Ivan, thank you for that. I appreciate you, and I hope you're still having fun with it, even if, you know, if it's not about pack ripping for you, if you're not hyped about the black foils. What about Modern League? It's a lot of fun nowadays. Conclave is a very different set, and it's introducing some really cool new synergies, and the gameplay is a lot of fun. I'm playing a lot. Last season I played, I don't know, 600 games or something, and this season I'm going to be a little lower because just busyness, but I'm still staying up on my own energy, playing all my battles in Modern. I'm going to leave it there, guys. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the support, likes, and everything. Have an awesome day. God bless.